What's up, guys? Welcome back to another Commander deck. This week we are doing Kozilek the Great Distortion. This has recently become probably my favorite Commander deck that I've played, that I've built. I find myself leaning towards playing this deck quite a bit. And like always, guys, the deck list will be down in the description box. I am not going to go over the lands, but it will all be in the deck list down below. So if you want to check those out, check out the whole rest of the deck as well. If you want to try it out, build it, play it, check it out down below. There is no infinite combos in this currently, and this is not CEDH. This isn't like a level 10 deck. It might be in some groups, but at least in my play group, this is kind of like the middle of the pack. This is where our general play level is. Wherever you find it sit in your play group, leave a comment down below. I'd be interested. Do you think this is more like a 9 or 10 or like a 6, depending on your play group? For our play group, this is probably around a 7, 8, somewhere in there. But the way this deck is built, it is a pretty much control Voltron type deck. You're gonna get Kozilek out as quick as you can. You're gonna fill your hand when you cast him, because when you cast Kozilek, you draw, if you have fewer than 7 cards, draw cards equal to the difference. It has Menace, and you can discard cards with the same CMC as a card that's getting cast and counter it. So it's counterspell on a stick as long as you have the same CMC, and we have a lot of different CMCs in our deck. So great card. Usually the games I've won with this were swinging for commander damage generally. There are a couple other ways to win. I mean, I've won with Infect, I've won with just straight damage, but a good portion of the time it is commander damage, being it is a 12/12. So this is a colorless deck. So let's jump into the fun of this. We're going to kind of stick Kozilek over here. Starting off the creatures, we have a Shimmer Mirror to give flash to our artifacts, because we do run a lot of artifacts in this deck. It's probably 50% artifacts, 50 to 60% artifacts in the deck. So gives pretty much most of our deck flash. Next one is Liberator, Urza's Battlethopter. This one gives our colorless spells and our artifacts flash, and whenever you cast a spell with a higher mana cost than Liberator Battlethopter's power, you put a +1/+1 counter on it. We're playing Big Stompy Eldrazi. There's a lot of cards that are going to be bigger than 1 power, like bigger than 1 CMC when we cast them. So this Liberator can get pretty big if needed be. So these are our 2 ways to flash stuff in on creatures. Next we have a Palladium Mirror for Mana Dork, and a Ornithopter of Paradise for 2 Mana Dorks, because you gotta play some Mana Dorks. We have a Joyous Familiar for cost reduction. Our historic spells cost 1 less to cast, so artifacts, legendaries, sagas. And like I said, our deck's probably 50 to 60% artifacts. And most of the Eldrazi's we play are legendary creatures. I think there's 1 or 2 that aren't. Actually, it might be like 4 that we play that aren't, but otherwise, most of the Eldrazi's do get cheaper from this. Then with colorless, there's not a lot of mana ramp, so we are running a Burnished Heart to get a couple extra lands into play, a Walking Atlas to get extra lands into play, and a Pilgrim's Eye. Now, Burnished Heart puts them on the field, Walking Atlas lets you tap it and play an additional, and Pilgrim's Eye puts it in your hand. So gets you extra lands, because our commander's a 10 drop. A lot of the cards we play are high CMCs outside of the mana rocks. A Sandstone Oracle. You choose an opponent. If that player has more cards in their hand than you, draw cards equal to the difference. This card actually does a lot better than I thought it would. Like initially I thought, oh, a 7 mana 4/4 with flying for colorless deck, but my playgroup plays a lot of draw decks. Like they get like 15, 18, 20 cards into their hand sometimes. So then dropping this late game, you're bound to draw something, at least in my playgroup. But that is that. Kicking into our Eldrazi, we have a Bane of Balaged. When it attacks, Defending player exiles 2 permanents he or she controls. So that is exiles. Ulamog's Crusher has Annihilator 2. It attacks each turn if able. The way Annihilator works, when it attacks, defending player sacrifices permanents equal to whatever the number is. This one's Annihilator 2, so they have to sacrifice 2 permanents. Playing an Endbringer. It untaps during each other player's untap step. You can tap and deal 1 damage to target creature or player. Pay 1 colorless, tap. Target creature can't attack or block this turn, or pay 2 and tap and draw a card. Now, so the earlier you can get this in, you can start pinging the 1/1s, the annoying 1/1s. And you can also draw a card or keep the big scary things from attacking you, which is always fun. Endless one, because there is points where we get a lot of mana, so an endless one is great. A Conduit of Ruin, when you cast it, you may search your library for a colorless spell with converted mana cost 7 or greater. Reveal it, shuffle your library, and put that card on top of it. And then the first creature card you cast each turn costs 2 less. Now, that does a lot of things. This could get us late game, so we can find our piece to win the game. Like if you want to kill them with, let's say, Blightsteel Colossus or something. This is a quicker way to get to said card. Oblivion Sower, another way to find more lands. When it enters the battlefield, you target opponent. They exile the top 4 cards of their library, and you get to put any number of land cards that player owns from exile onto the battlefield under your control. Just another way to ramp. And Deceiver of Form is the last of the non-legendary Eldrazi we're running in the deck. At the beginning of combat, you reveal the top card of your library. If it's a creature card, you reveal this way you can have your creatures other than Deceiver of Form turn into copies of that creature, and then you put that card on the bottom of your library. So this would, let's say, Blightsteel Colossus, or the other Kozilek, or Ulamog, or even like It That Betrays. It's a really great card to have, and with Mystic Forge, you can kind of manipulate the top of your deck a little bit. So those are the non-legendary Eldrazi in the deck. So I guess there was a few more than 4. What do we got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 of them. So going into the next chunk here is our other artifact creatures that aren't Eldrazi. Wormcoil Engine, kind of self-explanatory. Lifelink, Death Touch. Meteor Golem, form of removal. Duplicate, same thing. You can kind of remove a problem card with duplicate. Granted, it doesn't have, if it doesn't have hexproof. Steel Hellkite. Stone Coil Serpent. Reach, trample, protection from multicolored. Now, this card, I didn't realize how much of a problem people have with this card. They almost target this before my commander sometimes. Like, I'll play this turn 4, turn 5, and people will kill it as soon as they possibly can. But, I don't know, at least in my mind, I don't think it's that great. Mirror Battlesphere. Makes 4 mirrors, and when it attacks, you can tap X untap mirrors. And if you do, Mirror Battlesphere gets X, plus X plus O, where X is the number of mirrors that you tapped. Now, granted, we are running the Palladium Mirror and a Shimmer Mirror, which also count for this effect. So if you play Mirror Battlesphere with these 2 on the board, you can tap these in addition with its effect. Steel Overseer. We're playing a lot of artifact creatures, so this gets a way to buff some of our artifact creatures, especially when we get like Unwinding Clock out. You can make them pretty big pretty quick. And Junk Diver. When it dies, return another target artifact card from your graveyard to your hand. We run a lot of artifacts, so there's a lot of good things for Junk Diver. So these next 4 creatures are kind of the alternative boss creatures in the deck, I guess you could say. Blightsteel Colossus. Trample, Infect, Indestructible. And when it be put in the graveyard from anywhere, reveal Blightsteel Colossus and shuffle it into the owner's hand. People, Infect. I like Infect. Ulamog, the Infinite Gyre. When you cast a spell, destroy target permanent. It has Indestructible, Annihilator 4. And when it's put in the graveyard, it shuffles their graveyard into the library. So another way to get cards back late game, get this into your graveyard, shuffle your graveyard back into your deck. Kozilek, Butcher of Truth, another one, Annihilator 4. When you cast it, you draw 4 cards, and when it's put into the graveyard, its owner shuffles its graveyard into his or her library. It That Betrays is the last one with Annihilator 2. When an opponent sacrifices a non-token permanent, put that card onto the battlefield under your control. This will get you lots and lots and lots of value. So let's jump into the non-creature artifacts. There's quite a few, starting with the mana rocks, because we have a 10-drop commander and a lot of big creatures. So Soul Ring, Mightstone and the Weak Stone, Pristine Talisman, Everflowing Chalice, Sisay's Ring, Mind Stone, and Liquid Metal Torque. So all 7 mana rocks. You can play more, but this number for me has been working pretty well, having 7 of them in my deck. Next we have mana CMC reducers, Sevalence Anvil, Urza's Incubator, and Herald Torn. Now obviously with Herald Torn and Urza's Incubator, you're going to name Eldrazi. With the Sevalence Anvil though, what card you put underneath it really matters on, I guess, when you play Sevalence Anvil and what's in your hand at that moment. There's been times I will ditch like an artifact or just an Eldrazi or something. Really depends what you have at that moment for those. The next card is probably the MVP in the deck, Forsaken Monument. Colors creatures you control get +2/+2, so that makes your commander a 14/14. And obviously all colors creatures get +2/+2 on your board. Whenever you tap a permanent for a colorless, add an additional, so it almost doubles your mana. Like for all your lands that tap for 1, it's doubling your mana. For the ones that tap for 2, it's giving you an additional. And then when you cast a colorless spell, you gain 2 life. And like, we're playing a colorless deck, so this card puts in a lot of work. Next, we have a couple of equipments in the deck. Other ways to make our commander really big, so we can swing for lethal commander damage. Blackblade Reforged. Equipped a creature gets +1/+1 for each land you control. We're running 42 lands in this deck currently. I may change that. I might go down to like 38, because there is a couple other cards I want to put in here. So I might bring the land count down a little bit. But Blackblade Reforged, great card. Hot Soup. Equipped a creature can't be blocked. Whenever equipped a creature is dealt damage, destroy it. Most times you'll play this the turn you're going to kill somebody. Then we got Lightning Greaves, self-explanatory, and Zephyr Boots. Zephyr Boots, equipped a creature gets flying, and when that creature deals combat damage to a player, draw a card and discard a card. So just another way to get Kozilek over stuff, because sometimes they won't have flyers. So 12/12 flyer. Next we have some more land search stuff. We have Expedition Map and Renegade Map to help find some lands to get it into our hand. And next we got some removal. We got a Lux Cannon, a little bit slow removal, but if you have Unwinding Clock out, you can tap Lux Cannon each player's turn then, and then come back to your turn. Like if you play Lux Cannon on your turn, tap it, put the counter. Unwinding Clock will untap on the next player's turn, you tap, put another counter. Then the player after that, you tap, put a counter. Now it already has 3 counters. So by the time it gets to the 3rd player's turn or 4th player's turn, you'll have enough counters on here to blow something up if you really wanted to. And Nev's Disc, because this with Unwinding Clock, sometimes you just gotta blow up the world. Sometimes you do. Deck manipulation. We have Maze Mind Tome. Tap and put a scry counter. Tap and put a page counter on it and scry 1. Or you can pay 2, put a page counter, draw a card. And then when it gets 4 more counters, you exile it. And if you do, you gain 4 life. And Mystic Forge. Another top deck manipulator for the deck. You can look at the top card at any time. And you may cast off the top of your library, artifacts and or colorless non-land permanents, which is quite a bit of our deck. And with our Shimmermere and our Urza's Battlethopter, that will then give our stuff flash. So then you can pretty much cast Mystic Forge stuff whenever you want, if you have one of those out. And then you can tap it, pay a life, exile the top card of your library. If it's something you really just don't want there, like a land, if you're trying to get to something to cast, you never know. Next, we got Mirage Mirror. This card puts in a lot of work. You cast Mirage Mirror for 3. You can make it a copy of target artifact, creature, enchantment, or land. There's a couple of games where I will make it a copy of Kozilek just to get rid of Kozilek so that I can recast Kozilek to refill my hand. So it really depends. Next, Quicksilver Amulet. We are playing a lot of high CMC stuff, so anything to cheat them to play. Now, granted, the handful of Eldrazi, the bigger ones, Ulamog, our commander, and the other Kozilek have cast effects, but like Blightsteel Colossus doesn't have a cast trigger effect. Meteor Golem, stuff like that doesn't have a cast trigger effect. So next is Horizon Stone. If you would lose unspent mana, that mana becomes colorless instead. So it just kind of builds up your extra mana. Another great way. And probably my favorite card in the deck, Unwinding Clock. You can untap artifacts you control during each other player's untap step. So you get full use of your mana rocks, of your Mystic Forge. You can get your Mind Maze Tome done all in one rotation of the table if you really wanted to. Yeah, always fun stuff. And Unwinding Clock with Liquid Metal Torque. You can use Liquid Metal Torque with the Unwinding Clock effect on the stack. Tap this, make Kozilek a artifact, and then untap it. Or any of your other big Eldrazi. You can tap this, make it an artifact, and then it'll untap with the Unwinding Clock. So that's always a good thing. And then last but not least, we do have 3 Planeswalkers and 1 enchantment in this deck. We have an Ugin the Spirit Dragon. Kind of self-explanatory, more removal. A card liberated. An Ugin the Ineffable. Cost reduction for our colorless spells. And our only enchantment in the deck, probably the best enchantment in the deck, Eldrazi Conscription. Equipped a creature gets +10/+10 trample and annihilator. This on your commander just makes it a 22/22 trample annihilator 2. And then we are running Rose Passage, we're running Hot Soup, so you can make it unblockable and just swing out and kill somebody. So guys, that is the Kozilek deck. Like I said, I play it kind of like a control-y Voltron. Most of the time, Kozilek is the win con when I play it. Now, I'm sure there's other builds out there. I'm sure there's other ways. I know I can add Basalt Monolith and make this have infinite colorless mana. I know I could run Mana Crypt and Jeweled Lotus and like all the fast mana, make it even better than it is. But personally, for my play group, this is kind of the power level I like playing it at. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you guys would play. Do you guys like Eldrazi, not like Eldrazi? It gets a lot of hate, surprisingly. Definitely let me know. I have more commander decks coming to you guys. It's a little hard because sometimes I get attached to decks, kind of like this one. Like I built this one probably 2 months ago. And like I'm not really interested in building another deck at the moment, but I do have a few other deck techs coming for you guys. So don't forget to like, subscribe, share the video, and leave a comment down below what commander you guys want to see next. You never know, maybe I'll build it. Maybe you guys know a legendary creature or deck that I'm not aware about. Maybe I'll build it.